And we're live. We are back. Everybody, welcome to Bigfoot Forest Giants podcast. How you doing, Bob?
I'm good, man. How you?
I'm doing good, man. Good to be back. What's been going on? Anything new? I know you had a little bit of trouble last week. How you things doing this week? Things get a little better?
Uh, yeah, yeah. I got my truck fixed. Other
Got your
than
trouble.
the exhaust manifold still has a little bit of a leak in it, and Dodge don't even make it anymore. So that's helpful.
Vehicle
Uh,
trouble is such an inconvenience. It almost feels like your world has to stop until you get it figured out nowadays.
it makes you just want to go put it in the wall,
Yeah.
collect the insurance.
Or in the river and strap in real
Yeah,
tight. Yeah. Yeah. Glad to hear
it's
that. How's the
great.
farm going? How's the farm life? The
Yeah,
animals?
they're all alive.
Well, that's
They're
that's
all alive.
that's good. That's a start, man. I mean, that's
Lori's new kick is quail eggs.
quail eggs
Um,
because chicken eggs are so expensive.
Yeah, so quail eggs, um, half the size.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
again, they don't eat as much as the chickens, so there's
yeah.
that.
Quail eggs, right on. Well, we don't got much going on here at the house. Just the same old stuff, with family life. Come home, get Carly settled in, get her calmed down, get her ready to face the night, and then my wife takes her on a drive every night for a year and a half hour, 40-minute drive before bed, 7 days a week for 18 months at least. And so
Yeah,
tonight's no different. My wife is always on the road about when the podcast starts and sometimes when it ends. We start at 7. So it looks like she just got back about 5-10 minutes ago. So I think she might be here for a little bit. We got some Miss Marie. Hi, Nana. How you doing? We got Leonard. Hey, bud. Good to see you in there. And our best mods ever, Diane and Cashew, are here. My cousin Jamie, she's in there too. Most of these people, if not all of them. Um, but we got a great show tonight. Tonight we have a guy on that I met way back when I lived in Georgia. I say way back like it's been decades. It hasn't been that long ago, but man, it sure feels like it. I went to Expedition Bigfoot Museum in Cherry Log, and Mike Miller and his buddy Mike were doing a presentation from Ohio Nightstalkers, and they had some incredible audio. And they actually were on the Terror in the Woods TV series where their encounter was reenacted. And it was one of the most frightening things I've seen. And I can't imagine being there with a friend and their son um, to all go through that. It was very terrifying, and their presentation was just solid. I was floored by it, shocked. I had my own encounter, and I was scared for them. Watching theirs and then seeing them at the Bigfoot Museum. So it was more of a validation to see somebody else that had went through something as traumatic as I did, to see that I wasn't alone. And so when you have somebody that knows and understands what you went through, it is really easy to relate to them, and it's really enthralling when you listen to the encounter. So we're gonna bring Mike on from Ohio Nightstalker, and he's gonna walk us through everything that happened, and share his thoughts and theories, and that's why we're doing what we're doing, right? To share people's encounters, experiences, bring awareness, and kind of promote that we are not nuts. We are not wackos.
yeah,
Um, we're normal people, man. You know, just like everybody else. Just like Theodore Roosevelt, president, had experience and wrote about it in the book. President of the United States had an experience and wrote about it in one of his diaries. We're just normal people, and there's thousands of us across this country and in Canada that's experienced it, and all over the world too. So let's bring Mike on without me jabbering anymore. Mike, how you doing, bud?
Not bad. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, I'm doing great. But um, we'll probably just let you go where you want to go. You don't have to do this linear if you don't want to, or first things first, we may ask you how you got into the subject, just like anybody else would. And what's kitty cat's name?
Luna.
Luna. Nice,
Yeah,
beautiful kitty cat, very friendly and all up in your business.
yeah, little shadow here. But,
We just
yeah.
lost one of ours about 3 weeks ago. She had been with us, gosh, 17, 18 years maybe. And this is the first time since my wife and I have been together in over 20 years that we've had a house as a cabin. So we lost one about 3 weeks ago, our last kitty cat.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. But no, gosh, I just brought this thing way down. Let's bring some happy news in here. Just tell us how you got started. Let us know how you got started and what made you dive into this. And kind of give everybody a little bit of a just a background on you on the topic of Bigfoot.
Well, I watched all those shows on Bigfoot, Loch Ness, UFOs, anything when I was younger. I was fascinated by it and I loved watching it. Never had any inclination to doing anything like that. And on my local news, probably, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago, there was a report on the local news, Channel 7 in Dayton, Ohio. I lived in Huber Heights at the time, and they talked about a Bigfoot sighting, and I laughed. I thought, there's no way. And I thought, to me, if Bigfoot was real, he would have to be in the Pacific Northwest, maybe down the swamps, down south, British Columbia. I didn't think Ohio had big enough sections of woods for anything like that. And but it kind of got me interested. So I got online, and I literally stumbled into the BFRO website, and I clicked on Ohio, and I expected to see a couple of reports, and it actually dropped down, reports by county, and I about fell out of the freaking chair, and I just started going through the county I lived in and the ones close by, and I just started reading them, and most of them kind of made me laugh, and I thought, oh, you're drunk, you're stoned, you're probably afraid of your own shadow. And I was just amused more than anything. But then a couple of the reports I read kind of struck me. One of them, a guy said he didn't know what was in his backyard, but he had a 5-year-old male German Shepherd. And I grew up with a German Shepherd, so I'm partial to him. And he said his dog came through the glass on the outside door to get back in the house, ran to the furthest point away in the house, curled up and peed itself. And those dogs don't do that. And a couple other stories kind of similar to that, and kind of got me compelled. And I kept reading, and one of them was up the road from me, and a lady had her kids along the river. Something started whistling, and she assumed it was a fisherman playing around. Her kids whistled back, but what struck the mom is she taught music, and she said the whistles went so high up in octave that a human being couldn't do that. And her son kind of was dragging feet there and was behind him. And he supposedly seen this thing, had to have therapy. And she said she'd never go in the woods again. Well, back then I was way younger and I was playing softball. And a guy on the team, his brother was a Troy cop. And I said, hey, I'm not trying to find this lady, but she supposedly called the police on this. Can you tell me, is this a real thing or an internet story? And a few weeks went by, and he goes, hey, I talked to my brother, and yeah, the cops went to that location. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So, of course, I'm going to go look. I was married at the time, and I took her cousin. His name was Paul. And we went there. It was in August. And we went down in there. I copied the report, printed it out, walked down in there, and I didn't know what the hell I was looking for, But I seen stuff that didn't make sense, tree breaks, stuff like that. And just kind of overall, it was August, hadn't rained in a long time, really hot during the daytime, and just kind of had an overwhelming feeling of being watched, the hair standing up on the back of your neck. And, we got out of there, but some of the stuff I seen didn't make any sense. And I'm trying to shorten this story. I don't want to talk about 5 hours about one thing, but basically
Take your time, man. Every little detail is important to somebody who might be new to this. So a tree break, somebody may not even know what that means. You know what I mean? So all these little details, we got time, and we ain't gonna cut you off.
Okay.
Like I said, we are here for making people aware.
Okay.
It's kind of why we're doing this whole thing, of making people aware. Plus, we know a lot of great people in this community, and this is another way to get everybody together and just kind of help each other out, lift each other up, and make everybody grow with the topic and the subject, and promote each other as well on ideas, theories, and whatnot, and kind of therapy for us as well. We're all, and this is therapy for you, me, Bobby. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So you don't have to hold anything back.
Okay, but I didn't take a camera with me because back then I thought I don't need a camera. I'm just going to go look and that's going to be it. But I kept finding stuff and I kept looking online, and I decided to spend some time on it. And I personally really thought that I would open the door to this subject. I'd poke my head in, wasn't going to find anything, and I would be done and I'd move on. And that's not what happened. The more I looked, the more I found. And, I had people sending me blurry pictures and stuff through the internet. And I found one guy up the road here in Springfield, and he had a page, and I started talking to him. But a lot of the pictures he sent me were, blurry, something dark in the woods, But he was level-headed. His name's Dan Mosier, and a lot of the stuff he said made sense. And he was having some health issues, so he hooked me up with George Taylor, who's originally from Minnesota. And he took me out during the day to some places. And if you walk the trails, you don't see nothing. We go off the trail, and he showed me the difference between natural tree breaks, wind damage, and unnatural. And I didn't know the difference, but I started seeing some really crazy stuff. Some of the stuff that I had seen in that other location. In one area, the trees were probably at least that big around, and they were snapped at about a 7-foot height and laid the same way. And there was a game trail right there, and all the canopy above that. I talked with my hands. I'm sorry, but all the canopy above where these trees were laid down was untouched. And there's no way a storm is going to do this to trees and not tear that canopy out. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed about the tree break, you have to interview the cat next, is the bark was twisted. So when whatever broke this, it didn't just do this, it did that. It twisted, and it was evident. You can see that in the fibers of the tree. And I'm like, I don't know what was going on. I'd never seen that. When lightning hits a tree, it explodes. It doesn't twist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like I said, the more, I'm sorry.
Booty butt.
This thing follows me. I get ready for work, and it's right there.
Yeah.
That cat is from Ohio. He's got a big O on his back. Yeah, he got into a box that had some stuff in it, and he was allergic to it. So I had to take him to the vet. His hair's growing back. So that's probably what you're seeing. Nah, that wasn't.
He was talking about his butt.
No, but I don't think where I was anyway. But a lot of this stuff didn't make sense.
Yeah.
I'm telling my friends about it, and they're laughing hysterically. I work for UPS. They're poking fun at me, and we hiked this place, and something followed us. And of course, they told me it's, he had somebody follow you to scare you. And I'm like, that's possible, but why? I'm a truck driver. Why go to that much trouble? I don't work for the news, or I don't work for a TV station. What are you gaining? But I did like a litmus test. I decided to go back over there and duplicate what we did, only it was just me, and I didn't tell anyone I was going. I called in sick that day to work, and I wasn't sick. And I went over there. I walked the dry creek bed. I did some wood knocks. I did some whistles. I went back to the trail and walked it, and lo and behold, I was followed. And I'm like, okay, now either there's something else in this place, or does this guy have someone that just lives in the woods in case a Bigfooter comes by? I mean, come on. And stuff just kept happening, and kept, going to places always during the daytime. looking at tree breaks, looking at sign, finding some tracks. I found my first tracks in Clark County. Just happened by luck because of the Dry Creek bed at this area, and they were in the creek bed, and I took pictures of them. But lo and behold, ran into somebody finally that lived closer, and he invited me to come down. That's how I met the other Mike, through a mutual friend, and they invited me to go on a night hike. This was probably a couple years later after doing the daytime stuff, and I'm like, yeah, and we went to a place called East Fork State Park, and we hiked a couple miles back in along a bridle trail. And I'm the third wheel. I'm just along watching, those guys would knock. They did, Mike did a howl, and I'm just kind of along for the ride. And, nothing happened. And it was October, drizzly, probably 40 degrees, not a nice night. And I'm telling you this because I've had other things happen in October since then. It's like October is like a strange month, or, happening month. But we decided to leave after being there a couple hours, and we start walking out of there. And this is where things really changed for me, because not even 10 minutes into that walk out of there, and I'm happy. I'm thinking, hey, I've went on a night hike. Looks like I'm going to survive it. All good. Something threw a rock at us. And I don't mean a little one. I mean big. I mean big enough to where when it's hitting branches in flight, it's not deflecting off the branches. It's snapping them. It hits a tree over by me with a lot of force, bounces off. I hear this thing tumbling end over end. And I was really worried because we had about an hour at least to walk out from that point. And I always tell this during our presentations. Anyone that's seen a horror movie, I'm in the back of the line. You know what happens to the guy in the back of the line? He's gone.
Snatch. You look back, he's gone.
That was me.
Yeah.
And I fully expected something to reach out and pull me in. And I actually said the Lord's Prayer under my breath the rest of the way we hiked out of there. And we probably got about 20 minutes along that walk. And there was a spot on that trail where the trees came right up on there. And I thought, oh my God, this is an ambush point. This is where we get it. And they threw rocks there. They didn't hit anybody, but, same thing. We're ducking and it's crashing and all that, and snapping limbs. And, I didn't think I was getting out of there. I didn't think I'd see my kid grow up. I think Noah was maybe 6 or 7 years old at the time. And when we got off the trail and back to the regular area, I knelt down to kiss the ground. And I quit. I thought, this is way too intense. I didn't expect anything like this. And I was done. But I had all winter to think about it. And I thought, no, something is there. And I want to know, something's there. He's stealing the show. And I want to know what the hell is going on. I want to know more. And because I don't have a lot of free time, and I'm not going to waste it. And
right.
So I unretired, but I decided that a 3-inch knife and a walking stick weren't going to cut it. I did get my concealed carry permit just for kind of peace of mind, and I'm not going to ever shoot anything unless I absolutely have to. I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
But you run into other animals, you run into some crazy people. Sometimes that's happened. But, Mike and I kind of started our own thing because there was some trouble with the other guy. There was some arguing, and we started going out. And we liked Adams County because it's, there's not a lot of people. There was a lot of good reports down in there, and it's just really woolly. It's just got this feel to it. And we just kind of drove around during the daytime, see where some of these places where the road would lead you. And if it looked scary in the daytime, hell yeah, we're going back there at night. And that's where we went. And that was the night. It was October 11th, 2014. That's the night that put us on Terror in the Woods.
Yeah.
Because we went back in this area, and I don't think, and nothing's ever happened that crazy since then, as far as that intense. But I don't think anybody had ever messed with them there. And we caught their attention, and they literally, this road dead ends into a graveyard of all things. And they literally, every time we would drive out and we would stop along the way, they were following us, and they followed us all the way out of there. One of the clips you have is from an area we call the bridge. There's a little metal bridge there, and this is one of our best recordings ever. David Ellis analyzed this one and said that on the spectrograph, this recording pegged higher than a baboon.
And we know those are loud.
Would you like to play that?
Yeah,
Yes,
Bobby's
sir.
pulling it up right now.
And it's looped, which helps you hear it better. He subdued the coyotes and stuff, but you can still kind of hear them in the background. Will I be able to hear it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, everybody
Yeah.
should be able to hear that.
Yeah, it was. Did you hear it?
No, I didn't hear it.
Oh, I heard it. Did
I
anybody
heard
else hear it? Yeah, I heard it. Anybody else out there hear it? Miss
As long as everybody
Diane,
else heard it, good.
Miss Diane, did you hear it out there? She's got the scary face. I love those emojis. Awesome. My wife said
Yeah,
yes, she
yeah,
heard
they
it.
heard it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was a stupid long howl at a very high octave.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it was and loud,
yeah,
and that's
Oh.
just the tip of the iceberg.
yeah.
Yeah, David moved it like 3 times to give you a better chance to hear it, but we didn't realize that they were getting each time we stopped, they got closer. You know, they were further away at the graveyard, and they were closer at the bridge. Then we went up the road and stopped again, and they were even closer. And at one point, I didn't know if we were getting out of there because now we ran out of batteries that night. Everything we had, everything died. So now, when we go somewhere, I have a tackle box that's full of batteries. That's all it's got in it. So we didn't get any more audio from that night, but we stopped. The last time we stopped, Jordan did a howl, and we actually got a reply like you just heard on both sides of the vehicle. And at that point, I thought, wait a minute, we're like being herded. Are they going to let us leave? And they were a hell of a lot closer. And you want me to keep telling the story?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, please.
All right.
Let's choose your own adventure tonight on Bigfoot Podcast. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I heard a sound, and it sounded like air escaping out of something. So I thought Mike had driven over something. So I went over by his vehicle. It wasn't coming from his vehicle. So I'm like, okay, it's not a tire. What is this? You know, what would make that sound here? We're out in the middle of nowhere. And I thought, did somebody throw a freaking scuba tank in the woods? You know, so I go into the wood line a few feet, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 yards. And I'm really lucky that night I didn't go any further because I may not be here because I went in to that point. I can't see nothing. I don't have a light on. I mean, they showed us with flashlights galore on the show, but we don't do that. We're no lights.
Yeah.
We use like a red light to set up, but that's it. But I just kind of went so far and stopped, and I'm listening. I even closed my eyes. I just want to hear and try to discern what's going on. And I realized that's not something leaking out of a tank. There is something I can't see within maybe 25 feet of me, if that. That's breathing in and out. And like kind of that huff kind of thing. And I get goosebumps talking about this. And I realized, wait a minute, that's something breathing. And I'm frozen, scared. And it goes from that, it takes 2 or 3 breaths, and then it stops, and then it emits a very low, very guttural, I don't know if you want to call it a scream or a howl, but I only heard it the one time. I don't ever want to hear that one again, because in my mind, this was Big Daddy in there, and he was given a final warning, like, this is it, you get out of here or else. And when it cut loose with that that growl, whatever, it reverberated off my chest like I was at a heavy metal concert. And at that point, I did not fire a warning shot. Like the show took some liberty and added some stuff. I didn't fire a warning shot. I backed up very slowly. I did pull my gun. I had it down at my down here because I didn't know if this thing was coming. I was afraid to turn my back to it, and I just backed up to when I got back onto the trail part of where we were. At that point, I turned, and in probably a Michael Jackson-esque high-pitched voice, I yelled out, "We're getting the F out of here now!"
Yeah.
We run back to Mike's car, and he about drove off of the freaking because we were up, we were elevated. He about drove off the top of the hill there, and we got the hell out of there.
I can imagine.
I will never forget that, ever.
I don't, and I haven't forgot it when I seen it, and when you guys told about it, and then just to have the audio played at the same time and see you guys talk about it in real time, it was terrifying. And when you heard the breathing, were they really long inhales and exhales, or just quick ones? I mean,
They were
time wise, how long do you think they lasted? Just for my validation from the ones that we heard on our thing.
I don't know. It's like it took a while, maybe a minute. I don't know, but like toward the end of the exhale, it's almost like a huff, like a little exclamation point at the end, kind of thing.
Yeah, we experienced when we did the 168 down here in South Florida in Hungryland. I had a parabolics on, and it's same thing, like 25 feet away, just out of sight from our night vision and whatnot, down in the brush. It's this inhales that lasted 20-30 seconds and exhales that lasted just as long. And I'm over Mike, our buddy Mike that's on our team, Mike Velez. I was like, Mike, I can hear something breathing in the parabolic. He's like, I know, Jim, I can hear it, and I don't have headphones on. He was saying he could hear it without the headphones on. It was just this really long. I can't even mimic the amount of time because I don't have the lung capacity to do that at the slowest inhale. It just never seemed. It was like somebody letting air out of a balloon without the whistle. It was just. Like, that's it. I got about 3 seconds of inhale. This thing was like 20-30 seconds. It was really, really creepy.
Oh yeah, and it was so deep and it resonated. I mean, I felt it. I mean, it was bouncing. The sound waves were bouncing off my chest, and I'm like, get the hell out of here! I gotta go.
Yeah.
It's something you don't forget.
Yeah. I with good reason. What happened next? What happened next? I know you've had some things go on. Did that moment right there solidify things for you? Was that moment right there?
Not just that, even before that, the howls and stuff that we heard, and the ones we heard at the graveyard, we're talking during them. We just couldn't, we shouldn't have been doing that. We should have been quiet, but the adrenaline's through the roof,
Yeah.
Never had heard that before, and it's just so different. Even though the coyotes were going off with it, they're so different because the coyote, even if a coyote does a howl, it always goes back to that yippy dog thing, and Bigfoot doesn't do that, and you could tell it was two different creatures easily, and so that solidified it because that place going in there in the first time. I thought East Fork was bad, the night with the rocks, and I was going to get abducted. There was even worse because it was so heavily wooded, and there's just nothing for miles, and it's like they're going to turn around, and I'm just going to be gone. I felt so small and just like I was swallowed up. Now, I don't feel as bad going there now because I can drive that back in there without looking at a map, but not that night. That was the first time. Other than being back there during the daytime, we always do daytime recon because I want to know what I'm getting into.
Right. That's a good strategy to have.
And another thing for people, if you go somewhere into a place, you've watched horror movies, turn the freaking car around and face it out.
Yeah.
That way you don't get in the car and you're driving, you hit a tree or you hit a rock and you're stuck and you can't get out. Oh no. I would always turn my Jeep around and I'm facing the exit.
Yeah.
I have to get in and floor it.
Adrenaline can make your foot a little heavier than you want it to when you're trying to turn around.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that solidified a lot. Annie Tarpley, her and some of her friends were part of the story, the Civil War graveyard on Terror in the Woods. And the producer, Michael Sheehan, had asked her if she knew anybody that had a good story. Yeah. And she had heard us talk at a library, and she suggested us. That's how we got on that show.
Yeah, and Mike's a good dude. When I went for my taping in the area, and they flew me out to Pennsylvania for when it was These Woods Are Haunted. He reached out to Dave Bakar from Expedition Bigfoot Museum, and Dave sent them my contact information. That's how, secondhand. That's how, as well, how they found me as well. And Mike's just friendly dude, really friendly dude. They did the same thing with me as well. They weren't 100% stuck to my encounter. They ad-libbed quite a bit. They asked me to. I told them I wasn't deviating from my story at all. I wasn't deviating from what happened. But then they asked me to change one thing, and they were like, "We're never gonna find an El Camino that you're describing, like that your stepfather had. If you could change that to old truck, that'll be so much easier for us." And I was like, "All right, I'll do that." But I was disappointed because the scream that I heard as a child in Terror in the Woods is in their intro. When things start to get, or These Woods Are Haunted, when things start to get a little bit really silent, and all of a sudden there's just this one lady, it sounds like a lady being ripped in half. Ah! Just one scream. Yeah. Because that was what was also in Terror in the Woods, that same intro. And I knew I never in a million years I'd figure out how they got that. It was like they were there recording with me, but I actually got to find out. And what that was a coyote scream. And they got it from several other people's hearing vocalizations and back and forth and collaborating what exactly it was that they heard, because many other people heard that same just one lady being murdered scream, and they had to stretch it out, distort it, right, pitch it and everything to get everybody else's what they said they heard. And I was disappointed. It's not what I wanted to hear, because I wanted to be a Bigfoot. That's what we heard. That was what was in the tree, midday, early evening. But the fact that I was able to find that out, I knew in a million years I'd never get to find that out. But it all comes back to the same circle, with Michael Sheehan and the producer and whatnot, and the people that interviewed and whatnot. It was a great experience, but they did deviate a little bit, on ours.
Yeah, the things they added was the firing of the warning shot, and then showed us shining the flashlights, which we didn't do. And then they made Mike's panic attack or his anxiety attack a lot more than it was. We were, kind of freaked out, but it wasn't that extreme. But I was happy that they kept it serious, because we didn't know if they were going to poke fun at us or what. Yeah. But we're actually in season 2 secretly.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he didn't want. Do you remember the episode Devil Monkey?
It sounds familiar.
The Susan Valley, it chased her son and his friends out of a treehouse. They were up in their own treehouse in the woods, and one of his friends looked across, and this thing was in one of the other trees watching them, and they climbed down and hightailed it to the house, and it part of the way. We were the people that they talked to at the library, but Michael didn't want to put us in the next year's show because he wanted new people.
Right.
So they made it like they talked to just one dude, but it was really us. And but they did play our audio from where we went and recorded at their property. Yeah. And they did say, audio care of Ohio Nightstalkers, but he didn't want to put us on. I wanted to be back on. This was a cool experience, but And you have a clip from that. It's called Peach Mountain.
Peach Mountain.
This is
Let's
from
take
the
it.
private property.
Let's take a listen.
Play it.
That'd make me sit still if I heard that at nighttime. Not make a move, give away my location. Other than tires screeching.
Yeah, there's more than one there.
Lady Hawk wants to know, what episode was you on Terror in the Woods? Do you remember what the episode was called?
It was season 1, Hunted by Bigfoot.
Hunted by Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And they still air these
Yes.
constantly on the Travel Channel. If anybody goes to the Travel Channel's app and you find out what your cable provider is, like ours is Bluestream, it'll ask you what's your cable provider. You can actually watch these episodes for free on the Travel Channel's app once you put in what your cable provider is. Now, if it is I believe it's a satellite or something, you may not be able to. Who knows? But I know when I do it, I didn't think our Bluestream would be on because our Bluestream is terrible here in Port St. Lucie. But it was, you're able to watch those episodes for free on the Travel Channel's app.
Yeah, but she did. She made her husband sell that property. They moved out of there, and
Oh wow!
yeah, she's done with the woods. She's living in the city where she can't run into Bigfoot anymore. That's true.
I don't blame her for that. Have you actually had a sighting?
Yes, I did last year.
Excuse me. You want to go into that?
I still have a lot of, I don't want to say problems with it. I've seen glimpses of stuff before, but it's so quick, and I never count those. You see something flash, you look, hey, that could be a deer. It was too high. But then you see the branches that are moving up pretty high, and you're like, okay, what was that? But last year we were in a spot, in a new spot. We have a contact named Donna. She's Shawnee and lives in that area. And we were in this area we had never been into before until last year. And we were there in October. And we had, about 6, 7 people with us. Mike and Cody and Jeff Byers, who runs Creature Replica, by the way, makes the cryptid action figures. They went up the road, trail, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Mike likes to split up because, maybe see what happens, and the rest of us are back and we're watching. The moon was out, but I parked where there was these big trees, and they cast this shadow area over here, and that's where I parked. I don't think this thing seen us because of where I was parked. But as they went up the trail, up the road, if we're going to call it that, this thing comes out of the wood line, and it keeps coming, and it stops, and it's facing. I can't see any detail, but I can kind of tell it's a side profile, and to me it's watching them go up the road. And I'm actually arguing with myself because part of my brain is saying that it's not what you think it is. Something like that is not going to step out of the wood line and make a mistake and be visible. They think they try to stay hidden all the time. And then the other side of my brain is, hey, dumbass, there it is. Literally, I'm having this conversation.
You're battling your.
Not drinking. Yeah. We don't drink. We don't do drinking or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm in my right mind, and it keeps coming out to watch them as they go up further. And it comes out far enough to where some of the moonlight comes through the trees and hits it. And at that moment, this thing is shimmering silver. And I'll explain what I think happened. A show I watched a few years ago talked about some hair samples that were found They line up between ape and human, but they have nothing to compare it to, so they don't know what it came from. But at the base of the hair, it was dark. At the very tip of the hair, it was translucent, which means clear.
Right.
So what I think happens with Bigfoot, I don't think it's got a Romulan cloaking device or Klingon cloaking device. I think because the hair the way it is, I think they can stand next to something and pretty much disappear. They just blend in, you know. And I'm sure have you ever been hiking and you don't see a deer and you walk up and it jumps out in front of you?
Yep.
And because it was blended in, and this
Mhm.
thing probably has better camouflage than that. Well, anyway, what I think happened is I think the tips of the hair kind of absorbed the moonlight, and that's what made it do that like shimmer, because I could tell it was brown underneath that, but the top of it, it shimmered, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't expect that, and at that moment I stood up and took a couple steps toward that to try to, what am I seeing here? And when I stood up and moved, this thing seen me, and it turns and it's facing me. And we're just kind of looking at each other. I can't see anything. It's just dark. And then we're just kind of looking. I brought my hands up to like, hey, I got nothing hands here kind of thing. And it just didn't care. And it just kind of moved back into the wood line. And I still have problems with that because as a researcher, and to me, there's one expert, and that guy's name is Jeff Meldrum. I mean, he's a professor. He's got a PhD. Very top notch guy to be on our side. And I'm a weekend warrior. Most of the time we do this on the weekend because everybody's working. And I'm not an expert or nothing like that. I'm just happen to get lucky and record some stuff, being at the right place at the right time, and then seeing that. And I just kind of have problems with it because I didn't expect that, and it kind of jarring, really. And what I was going to say is, people in my work know I Bigfoot and I do this, and then when you say, yeah, I actually seen something, that's like, yeah, you seen something. That's convenient, And but it did happen. It's almost like I don't even want to I want to talk about it, but I don't, because is it going to make me sound crazier and less believable by saying something like that? So I basically stick to just talking about the audio because, audio is something you can record. Footprint stuff is great. I don't want to lug the stuff around to do casting, and it's hard. I mean, you find a print that you can cast, you're pretty lucky. And the footprints could have been made a day ago, an hour ago, a month ago, a year ago. Yeah. But audio came from the night we were there.
Yes.
During the night, and that can be isolated, listened to over and over again. I could send that to people to have them listen to it. I could send it to David Ellis, like the other stuff, and have him analyze it. So I'm more geared toward audio.
Yeah, I think kind of what you went through with your sighting is a lot of what most people go through with their sighting. And this is, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I can say this. You can believe and you can want to believe, and you can know, and you can believe so bad that they're real, and you can want them to be real so bad. But it's not reality yet until you see it. And when you see it, it is tough to change your reality. Now, you either have to accept what you've seen or try to figure out a way to deny what you've seen. And for a lot of people, it's just too hard to accept that, because now you got to start questioning what else? What else? What else are we being lied to? What else is out there? How big do they get? How fast are they? Do they run in pack? You start wondering, can you even step off the sidewalk anymore, in a bush without, it changes. You have to alter your perception of what reality is. And for some people, it's just too hard. And some people struggle. I struggle with it. But I didn't have a choice but to face it. But I chose to run towards it instead of face it, which is why I, joined up with Carrie Arnold when we did the Bigfoot Odyssey at 168. I had to face what happened, but I chose to run towards it. But I had a long time of having it in my mind. You know what I mean? It when you see it, it changes everything. You can believe all you want, but until you see it, it changes a lot. Now you got to deal with that, and it's a PTSD type of thing. It sounds terrible to say PTSD because you got soldiers, police officers, paramedics, people that survived really traumatic things. It's almost like stealing their trauma, but when you relive it and it's back and you get all the emotions and stuff, it's PTSD, man. There's no other way to say it. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I don't know if I want to call it trauma or not. It's just kind of like maybe not unsettling. Just kind of you just kind of feel like you had everything turned upside down on you because I wasn't close enough to see color of eyes or any kind of detail. I could see the dark hair, the facial area was darker than the hair.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying it had a silver coat on. It's because the tips of the hair were absorbing the moonlight and it had that shimmer, but I could tell underneath it was brown. But it was there because it came out of the wood line and it was, I don't know how many, less than 50 yards away. And it was there and it was standing upright. It was walking upright and it was big. And when it went back in the woods, it could have cared less if we were there or not. And it was very loud. When it went into the woods, it had to push part of a tree. There was a great big tree that had been hit by lightning and had a big limb that came down almost like an elephant's trunk, but from a greater height. And it pushed that out of the way to go around it, to go back into the woods. And that was not a little piece of tree. And I this thing swinging after it went. And when it went into the wood line, it stepped very forcefully, almost, like crunch, almost kind of saying to me, I interpreted that as, it's not clumsy and just making a lot of noise since it's already been seen. It didn't care. But to me, that was kind of a, hey, you don't want to follow me in here. If you know what's good for you kind of thing.
Yeah, if you didn't hear it approach and it left stomping, it was sending you a message. That's my take.
Yeah, I want to go to that spot this year. It's this year now, and put some food out, some gifts, and see what happens. We actually you have an audio clip from that area, not from that night, but from Memorial Day last year. That's the Hidden Valley Angry Giant. We had called Cody on his call blaster. It's got something we changed up the last couple of years. Instead of going into an area and doing wood knocks and howls, clacking rocks together, Cody's got this call blaster. It's got real animal sounds embedded in it. So we'll sit for a half hour or longer, 45 minutes. We'll talk normal voice and pitch dark. And if nothing happens, then we'll start blasting some calls. And we call blasted a wolf howling. Nothing happened. And I don't think there's wolves in Ohio anymore, but just something to break up the night, And then waited a few minutes. He call blasted the wolves howling. And right after that ended is when this thing went off. I think there's some coyotes in the beginning, but you're going to hear this thing come in and it is mad. It is, to me, it's telling that wolf or wolves, hey, this is my damn yard that you're in, kind of a thing.
Yeah. You got it, Bob? That would also make me want to get out of there.
Yeah, and you can hear a very distinct difference
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
the coyotes and that. It's not even close.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
It was mad. That thing, you could tell that thing is not happy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it thought there was wolves around or if it knew it was us. I don't know. But I got a theory, and it could be wrong. I think they freaking scavenge off each other because they seem to be in the vicinity of each other quite a bit.
Yeah.
Especially
That's a theory that many other researchers believe as well. I've got some recording that there's something in the mix that starts the coyotes off, and I believe that it's not coyotes, but I'm not an expert at coyote sounds. They can make a ton of noises, but what I hear in my recordings sound like something using its mouth and going waka waka.
Yep.
And that's after the coyotes stop, and it sounds closer. I'll share that with you sometime.
Cool.
And it seems like there's several researchers that believe the same thing, that like maybe they're riling up the coyotes and letting the coyotes do the hunting and maybe coming and stealing their stuff, type of thing.
Yeah. Shark and remora kind of a relationship,
Yeah. Did you guys ever have any issues with not Men in Black, but forestry people or anything like that, coming just to see what you're all up to? Did anything ever get weird with like the Ohio Department of Natural Resources?
Not really. Now, early on, when I did the day hiking with George, day stalking, call it that. We had went to a park. I'm just going to go ahead and name it Charleston Falls. It's in Miami County, and we were there one morning when they opened, and one of the park people was in there because he's in uniform, and he was changing out the trash bags or whatever, from the trash cans, and we all said good morning to each other, and as we walked past him, he goes, "Oh, I know who you guys are," and we just kind of stopped and looked at him. He goes, "You're in here looking for our monkey." And we're like, whoa, so they must have been watching. I don't know if they've got cameras set up in the park, but that guy knew or figured out what we were there for.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
A few years later, I approached that park service there about recording at night because you're not allowed in there at night. And I told him I wanted to record wildlife. I didn't say Bigfoot. And I talked to a guy, and I went all the way to the top, the Park Service, and we had a discussion on the phone. And I should have recorded this, but I didn't. And he goes, "Why can't you go record coyotes at Lost Creek?" And I said, "Because you've got more than coyotes at Charleston Falls." And that's all I said. And it got quiet. And he goes, "Are you talking Sasquatch?" He said it, not me.
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes." And before you laugh at me or hang up on me, I said, "They're in there. I have hiked your park off the trail. I've seen the tree structures. There's a tree structure there where they took the tree and bent it over and rammed it into the ground like the St. Louis Arch."
Mm-hmm.
I brought that up. I said, that wind didn't do that, And I said, and I don't care if you think I'm crazy or not. You've got something in there. Got quiet again. I thought he hung up. I said, "Well, he hung up on me." He goes, "No, Mr. Miller, I'm still here. But the problem is, we go let that happen, and you put that on the internet, then we're going to have people in there looking for that, and I don't want that." Most parks want visitors, right?
Yeah.
And I begged him. I said, "Dude, we'll go at night." I said, because they come up in the front part of that park at night. I said, "You can go with us. We're not going to go down by the falls. We're not going to go way in there." And there was a cop that was going to go with us. I won't name him. I said, "There's going to be a police officer going," and they would not do it because of that.
A lot of people don't know that the Ohio Department of Natural Resources did like a 5-part podcast on Sasquatch. And
No?
yeah,
Wow.
you didn't know that?
No.
Oh my goodness, yeah. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources did like a 5-part podcast on Sasquatch. And it's a little bit of an older podcast too. I'll find that link and I'll send it to you. They literally did about what is Sasquatch, what do Sasquatch do, where Salt Fork, right? Is that what it's called? Salt Fork or Salt something?
That's one of them. Yeah, Salt Fork.
Yeah, and that was the main place that they were talking about on this podcast. This was done by Ohio Department of Natural Resources, not somebody else, and one of them was a park ranger guy. And I was blown away by that they talked about what sounds that you might see, what structures you might see, potential footprints and whatnot. Yes, they 100% absolutely did a podcast on their, I guess, page or website or whatever. Absolutely, they damn sure did. And for me, that was eye-opening too. Okay, now we got park people. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources is like FWC, Florida Fish and Wildlife here, and in Illinois. What is it up there, Bobby? You remember what's it called? Just Fish and Game? Is that what it is up there? I forget what it is up there.
Gustavo? I don't know. They're terrible up there.
Yeah, but do you remember what they're called up there? Is it just Fish and Game?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know.
Blue-Eyed Norther says, "I'm from Ohio. They'll make no bones about it." Yes. Leonard says, "Jimmy, I saved those videos from Salt Fork, and I thought I had sent them to you. I can send them to whoever you wish if needed. If you want to post a link in here, Leonard, on the comments or on the chat, that'd be great, bud. Or we can do it after the show." But absolutely, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources did a thing about what they may look like, what evidence might be out there, the history behind it. It was very interesting to see. And the park ranger guy was into the subject, and he was like, he didn't say they didn't exist, but he didn't say they did exist, but he felt like he basically came across as there's just been too many reports to not take this serious.
Yeah, the governing body where we research now, we had to sign an affidavit. We're not allowed to disclose where we're at, closest street, closest city, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, I asked them over the phone. I said because I asked if they ever found anything, and of course they denied ever finding anything. And I said, well, if there's nothing there, why do we have to sign an affidavit? And they're like, you want to go in there or not? Because it's just going to be me doing the lectures this year. Mike, the other had to kind of retire. Him and his wife are going to travel a lot. They're going to get their house ready. They might sell it and move, but so it's just me this year. But at a lot of the libraries and sometimes at the conferences when we would speak, hey, where was that at? What road goes in there? People would ask. We're like, can't tell. Yeah. But you're not going to tell anyway. It's like if you got a good fishing spot, are you going to tell people where it's at? No. You're going to keep that secret.
Right. I think I'm not sure we'll ever know in this lifetime unless somebody just comes out with a great video, and puts it and blasts it everywhere, makes 12 thumb drive copies of it. So, that they can have it if the, stuff gets confiscated. But I feel like if we get the word out there enough, it'll better our chances. And I think that I hope you have another sighting. I hope it's you that are able to get that video, that photo, that sound. There's going to be somebody that won't be convinced if a Sasquatch is sitting on their lap, but we're really not trying to prove to the world, but we're also trying to prove to the world we ain't crazy. BFRO, I think Matt Moneymaker said that they've got over almost 75,000 report, but they're not all out there on the BFRO because they don't have enough people to do all the reports.
Right.
So 75,000 reports of Sasquatch since the mid 90s in the United States alone. That's not just one Bigfoot randomly just, acting like a gypsy and wandering around and people seeing them by chance, because they're red, they're brown, they're black, they're 3 feet tall, they're 10 feet tall. They're all, they've got 4 toes, 5 toes. We got 3-toed prints. So we're not crazy,
No, and that's one thing you just made a good point. When I first started into this subject, the first thing I noticed is that the Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest was bigger and more robust than the one that's in Ohio, or the one that's down in the swamps, swampland, Florida and Georgia and all that. And I noticed that Bigfoot changed to fit its terrain, and that would happen naturally. If Bigfoot was like a cookie cutter, one size fits all, that would be a red flag to me. But that's not what you find. You find in different areas, this thing is built to maneuver its terrain, and that would happen naturally. And then before we were even here, all the Native American tribes have words for Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't consider Bigfoot a god or deity. It's keeper of the woods, watcher of the woods, the watchers, hairy man.
It's not an animal. They consider it a person.
Right. It was part of what they had to deal with. And I think Bigfoot back then, this is just my own opinion, they probably slept at night and were up during the day. They lived in close proximity. The Native Americans weren't killing everything. They weren't putting Dollar Generals in every 20 miles. And I think when we got here, we got guns, we're killing all the buffalo and everything. But I think Bigfoot has changed how it operates to try to not run into us. I think they're more of a nocturnal species now. And you've got them out during the daytime. You've got like sentries watching over the rest. But I think they've changed to try not to run into us because, they're just survive.
I'm right there with you with that theory. I think, and from what I have heard, the Native Americans used to learn from them. They used to learn from the Native Americans. They would trade with them. And it wasn't until the Europeans landed on their boats and had these guns that were killing the Native Americans in droves, they ran back into the forest and never came out. And that's just Native Americans saying it. They aren't making stuff up. They know these lands better than anyone, better than any tracker nowadays, better than any hunter, better than anybody from, Virginia, somebody in Pacific Northwest. These Native Americans have this land down and what's in it. I think if there's anything that's undiscovered to us, they know about it. They've been in here for so much longer than we have. Lady Hawk is in here and she's leaving a bunch of great comments. I'd like to have a conversation with you, Lady Hawk, about you and your elders and the culture that they mean to you and your elders and your tribes, and how involved was it, in the Indian culture. We know that, like you said, every Native American tribe in the United States and Canada has a name for them, and it's not an animal to them. They consider it a people, a person.
It's a part of the forest. It's part of, life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't get those names off of social media neither.
I had.
Right.
They all saw them.
Yeah, and we didn't. We didn't give the Bigfoot legend to the Native Americans. It was already here before we were even here.
100%. 100%.
I had a Bigfoot moment. I got a new car this past year, and I was trying to get a specialized plate for it. And Donna, our Shawnee contact, he's got like the dictionary, the old like Shawnee language, and then there's like a newer, version of the language. And the word for Bigfoot in the old talk, too long to fit on a license plate. But the newer one would. It's quash. I'm going to say it wrong. I'm sorry, but I think it's Quashni, and it translates into the watchers. And the old word was like watchers, like grandfather. It was like part of the family.
Yeah.
The BMV wouldn't let me freaking use it because they said it sounded too close to a sexual term. Smashed me. Like, whatever. But
Right.
here's where it gets funny. I thought, well, maybe I'll pick out another word. So I started looking in the Shawnee dictionary for words like the word for wolf, the word for darkness, the word for night stalker, if there was one, like what I might use. And
Yeah.
I gave up. But funny thing happened. Tiger's my favorite animal, Siberian tiger. And I looked up the word for tiger. And the new version of the Shawnee language has a word for tiger. I'm not going to try to say it, but it translates into the one with stripes. But guess what? The old Shawnee dictionary does not have a word for tiger. And the reason is because they never seen one back then.
How could they?
They
That's what I was.
weren't in North America, so they didn't have a word for it because it wasn't something they had to deal with. But guess what? They did have a word for Sasquatch because
I was gonna
it was part of their life. That is.
I was gonna touch on that when you said that they had a word for it. I was like, wait a second, how did they have a word for it if it was never even in their culture or their eye shot to even know what it was? Back in the old days, it wasn't here then.
Right.
Yeah.
Back then, this is way back, and they hadn't seen one. And I just got by that. I thought, hell, there's evidence. Not even looking for Bigfoot evidence, and boom, that popped up.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mike, it was great to have you on, man. We're happy that you took the time. I know you had to rush to get home. To get here. I know that you got some things coming up. Do you want to talk about or any of your events or your presentations or anything that's coming up or expeditions?
Yeah, well, we'll start doing that when it warms up in the spring. But I'm going to speak on Sunday, March 2nd at the Frogman Festival in Loveland, Ohio.
Okay.
10 a.m. And then I think the next one after that is at the Fairborn Theater. On April 19th, and we're still scheduling stuff. But if anyone wants to find out, where I'll be or what we're doing, is just look us up on Facebook, Ohio Nightstalkers, and please like the page and everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. When's your next night out of research? That's probably way too cold right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really don't want to get out. I just got over being sick. And I really don't.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I don't want to be out in 20-degree weather. So, wait a little bit. I kind of like having the foliage in. I don't think they get as close when there's no cover because I think they want that. They want the higher ground. And they want cover.
Yeah.
They want everything. They want every little check mark. They want on their side, not ours.
Yeah. Yeah. They want to have the heads up.
Upper hand.
Yep. That's awesome. That is the sounds. If anybody wants to go back and listen to these sounds or head on over to Ohio Nightstalkers page on Facebook, correct? You have a YouTube channel as well?
No YouTube channel yet, and I don't have the audio on the thing. I was kind of worried about people grabbing it, but
oh yeah, I gotcha.
Because we put it on CD now to where we can say, hey, we recorded this. It's been authenticated by David Ellis, and here's the we actually.
What is the 10-year hidden?
That was okay. The 10-year anniversary of the night that we were on Terror in the Woods was last October, and we went to every location that we did 10 years prior just to see what would happen. And at the graveyard, we call blasted the wolf howling, and we got coyotes. It was so wild that one of them started, and they were like in a big circle around us, and they just went off. It was really crazy, but I sent that to David Ellis because, you think you hear something in the background, but you don't know. And he fleshed out one thing that was behind the coyotes. It's not a coyote. If you want to play that real quick.
Sure. That definitely don't sound like a coyote to me.
No,
that don't sound like any canine.
No, that's not something else.
Yeah.
David explained that a coyote communicates
from 900 to 1200 hertz. It's never below that. It's never above that. And the weird, or whatever you want to call them, audio clips that are supposed Bigfoot are between like 350 up to about 875.
Gotcha. That's creepy. So if anybody wants to share any of these sounds, just refer them to this episode so they can hear some of Mike's recordings, because these are some really good recordings. Enough to make you not want to go in the woods. That's for sure. Miss Diane, I had a good conversation with her today. She's one of our mods, and her and Cashew are just like the best on the internet at mods, and they're great people. And Miss Diane, she's going to make her way down to here in March, and we're going to try to meet up, her and my wife and I, and have some dinner. It just kind of dawned on me, Miss Diane, that Saturday, we have plans, but that Saturday night we don't. Maybe if you're up to it, we could take a little drive out in the woods where Carrie Arnold took us. If you're up for it, we stay an hour or so and just let you go to the exact place where, we had some crazy stuff go down that you've heard Carrie talk about many a times. And then in the end of March, we got some guys from Texas that are coming down. We're going to be in the exact same place we were for 168. March 27th through the 30th is when me and Bobby will be available there for camping and going out and doing some research. But whoever comes is going to be able to stay there the whole 8 days. So if there's a couple people out there that want to join us, hit us up on our email, bfforestgiants.com or at gmail.com, bfforestgiants@gmail.com. And we'll chat. I've got 3 permits, which allows us to have 9 people, and I think as it stands right now, we're going to have 5 or 6. So there'll be a little bit of space. We're staying at an equestrian campground where there's showers and restrooms and whatnot. Because after going out at night, I don't want to go to bed sweating dirty and smelling like bug spray. So I'll take a shower and then we'll go to bed. But that's kind of our plans. But you brought up Jeff Meldrum. He will be our guest next Wednesday. So we are super excited about having Dr. Jeff Meldrum on next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm gonna let him see this and tell me what he thinks. I'm gonna let him see that and see if he thinks I'm a fool or not, or because we got a lot of people that don't think that's real, but the trackway of all these
but prints. those people that don't think it's real, nobody that's ever put it in their hand and felt that big toe has ever said that it's not a real print. People look at it and say, oh, that ain't real. But the minute you put it in your hand and feel that toe, you know that's a toe. And it's a real toe. Nobody that's ever held it in their hand has said that it ain't real.
Yeah.
It changed it because, Mike, you know what your toe feels like when you run your thumb like along the side of your toe from the top to the bottom of your toe. You know what it feels like. That big toe feels exactly like your toe does.
Well, I'm old, but it's kind of harder to do now.
Yeah.
You probably remember.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it for us tonight. Everybody, thanks for coming out. We had some new guests tonight. Thank you guys for stopping in. Hopefully you enjoyed being here. We had a great guest tonight, Mike, and hopefully, Mike, if you ever want to share anything with us that you find in the future, man, you could please reach out. You got a place here, man, for us.
And I'll send you, if we get anything recorded, I'll send it to you.
And just like that with us, when we find stuff, like I shared a video, I think I shared a review with the tree structure that we seen drug out of the ground, dragged across the ground, and then stabbed into the ground. I think I shared that with you. Same with us. Oh, you're fine.
Tune in next week.
Right.
Oh man, I like having fun, man. Sorry.
Right.
I had to
no, you're good. Yeah, we'll do the same thing, man. I like running across other researchers and asking them what they think, and because again, we are not Bobby and I, we aren't the ones that will say we like to surround ourselves with like-minded people, because when you do that, you're limiting yourself to just one vision, one way of thinking, and not really much open-mindedness. We like to have all kinds of thoughts and theories and experiences that people have had, because it's the only way we're going to grow. It's only way we're going to have something that someone told us in our mind, that if we actually experience something similar, we can say, okay, we've heard about this before. What are we going to, and so.
Now, Jim,
ahead,
you showed him the video of the tree that was dragged.
I thought I did. Didn't I share that with you, Mike?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have seen hundreds of structures that we're pretty sure are not man-made, are not natural, but were built. But we've never found one that you could clearly see where they drug it across the ground to prop it up in the air.
Yeah, trees are.
Yeah, exactly. And we've just never seen that. And it's like, wow.
Yeah. So. This one was pulled out of the ground, sat down, slid, crammed down, and then slid another 8 to 10 feet.
8 to 10 feet, I'll bet. And it's like a 50-foot long tree. What it looks like to me, Mike, is like if they were, if you had a broom and were trying to bring it up and stick it, and the bottom of it's dragging the ground. That's what it looked like to me. Like we're trying to prop this up here so the base of it's dragging, because it's like a 45, 50-foot tree.
Yeah. Easy.
It was too big of a tree for humans to have done that. It was too big.
Wood's heavy.
And we couldn't see it from the trail, so we knew that. Why would somebody do that if you couldn't see it from the trail? What was the point?
Yeah, and it was stuck up almost straight up enough that you didn't even notice it until I got up on it. I'm like, Jim, that was drug. And he looks over and he's like, oh wow, because it was almost completely vertical, but you could see this drag mark.
That's a lot of power to do that.
That's a lot of power.
And then to stab it back into the ground. Well, we're gonna get out of here. Once again, Mike, man, thank you for stopping in, taking the time, rushing home. I know you wolfed down some dinner so you could make it here on time, and we appreciate that. But again, hopefully, me, I'm going to keep in contact with you.
Yeah,
I've reached out. I've reached out to you. We've had this conversation thing for a bit now. I think ever since I seen you on Terror in the Woods, and then when I became a Terror in the Woods alum, I reached out to you, and I think that's how long you and I have been communicating back and forth.
Wow. That's a while then.
Yeah. Ever since
you stay in touch, and
absolutely,
I appreciate you having me on everything. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks. Absolutely, man. We appreciate it so much, and then thank you for coming out. Everybody in the chat, thank you for coming out. Blue-eyed Norther, Annie L. This is the first time I've been seeing you here. Thank you for stopping by. Hopefully, you make this place a place of habit. We try to do a show every week or every other week at least. But next week we have Jeff Meldrum on at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We will see everybody then. And thanks for coming in and watching us and hanging out. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks.
You bet. Take it easy. Bye-bye.